Well, it's full of memories, isn't it? They're full of memories and nostalgia and a little motion too, because the Spitfire was a lady and a most beautiful airplane, and even by today's standards, she is a good picture to see in the sky, isn't she?
Tim Wallace probably couldn't tell you exactly when it was that he first got the hankering to fly a World War II fighter plane. Odds are it was back in the days when he and a group of pioneering aviators took to the skies in helicopters in search of deer. The helicopter opened up the backcountry and in doing so helped launch New Zealand into the multi-million-dollar venison industry. Flying in the mountainous terrain, which had become the habitat of deer, was both demanding and dangerous. For Tim Wallace, the experience bred an even greater admiration for the young pilots who were thrown into combat with the bare minimum of flying hours to back them.
I've done, 13,000 hours now. The type of flying we've done on the deer, capturing deer, and that is very similar to flying a fighter. I mean, there is a great similarity, and I think that I've studied and I've read their books, quite a few of their books, and I understand what pressures they're under. I think, we both got a common interest, which is aviation. And further on from that, I'm restoring and collecting fighter planes that they flew 50 years ago. That's bringing us together.
So it was in this spectacular setting that the idea to celebrate an era of remarkable aviation history and the pilots, engineers and designers who created it was born. Although Wanaka is a long way from the major population centres of New Zealand and therefore a seemingly unlikely place to start gathering and restoring old fighter aircraft from around the world, it was the base of Tim's Alpine Dare Group, and in his mind at least, there was no reason why a world-class collection could not be established here. The collection began in the late 1980s, based at a small airfield at Luggett, just outside Wanaka. It was here that the Alpine Fighter collection went on display, in a museum which was from the outset designed to give visitors more than just a static history of the era.
The New Zealand Fighter Pilots Museum honours all New Zealand fighter pilots that flew in World War I and II. And I guess it's quite unique as well that the aircraft in here fly. So what we've got is a living history lesson of the aeroplanes. A lot of people will go to museums and see static exhibits, but here the exhibits actually fly. And what a lot of younger people, the younger generation, don't realise is these fighter pilots were young themselves. They weren't older people. And we've got a memorial roll here of the 780 New Zealand fighter pilots killed in World War I and II. And it's a sad thing that over 80% of those people never saw their 25th birthday. So we're not honouring war, we're honouring those young people that gave sometimes their all for New Zealand.
Last week, 3 ME-110s arrived. One of them skidded in on a frozen lake after being mortally shot. Sure, the engines are damaged, but the whole aeroplane went underneath in the spring. And 50 years later, we brought it out again. And now that's back here in Christchurch at Wigram, where in 3 years we'll have it rebuilt to flying condition. And just out the back there, I've got a mint condition ME-110 engine that was still in a box, ready to go on. So we've got the engines, but the most important was the airframe, and now we know we've got a flyer. We'll be the first in the world to fly an ME-110. That's something, isn't it?
What you've got here is the centre section of the Hurricane. You can see the seat up the top there. Not sure how it actually crashed, but probably went in this way, and we don't know whether the pilot survived or not. But the interesting thing is this aircraft actually flew in the Battle of France in 1940 and flew over Cobbercane's funeral. So that's a good Kiwi connection. And then it flew in the Battle of Britain and was flown by a New Zealander from Invercargill in 1941 who actually crash landed it, but survived and walked away. And then the aircraft was taken over to Russia on the Arctic convoys and was flown in Russia. We don't really know too much about what happened over there. But around on this side, you can actually still see up on the top here the Polish markings. It was flown by a Polish squadron as well in the RAF, and you can see that portion there, radiator underneath there. And that's really just the only section, or the main section of the Hurricane that we've got here. We've got the tailplane, which we'll see later, but that's the centre section. All the wiring, you can still see the gyro compass sitting in there, and the seat at the top. And then this portion here is a Stuka, and it's the main centre section. It's actually flying towards us now, if you can imagine that, and it crashed going in that way. You can see the rear portion where the gunner sat. He was killed in this accident, but the pilot sitting in the front on the seat that would have been up here somewhere actually survived, which is quite amazing really when you look at that. So that aircraft will actually be put together again as a static and won't fly and be swapped for another fighter aircraft with a museum. But the Hurricane here, in 3 years' time, you'll see that aeroplane actually flying.
Working in relative isolation, the engineers and mechanics of the Alpine Fighter collection are building an enviable record in restoration. In 1988, they took delivery of a Curtiss P-40K Kitty Hawk and set about restoring it to full operational mode, a project which was approached with a typical can-do attitude.
But an aeroplane's an aeroplane. That sounds a little bit blasé, but a motor mechanic will fix an Austin 7 or a Ferrari. So the basics are all the same. I still find it totally amazing at the effort and expense they went to building them. They were latest technology, high-performance fighters. And we're not looking at old antique stuff, we're looking at what was very advanced for that time. And I mean, you've got to compare that now with Phantom fighters, the latest MiG fighters. We're talking high-tech. It's 50 years later, but technology hasn't changed a lot.
As the number of restored flyers increased, it seemed a logical step to display them to the public. And so, WARBIRDS over Wanaka, the air show, was born.
Way back in 1988 was the first air show, and I think Tim organised that himself and got a bit of help from the Lions Club and Rotary and all those people, and went for it. And then of course he said, well, we better have a bigger one in 1990, and it's grown from there, as you know by the figures of the people that have come to the air shows over the years. I think it was 14,000 in 1988, and then it grew to in 1990 to 26,000. and in 1992 we had over 50,000.
The success of the 1992 Warbirds over Wanaka surpassed even the organisers' wildest dreams. People came from everywhere. With a mix of country fare, vintage engines and aircraft, and of course the Warbirds themselves, the show planners had obviously struck a chord. But the pièce de résistance was the presence, for the first time ever in New Zealand, of the Messerschmitt 109. For the thousands who turned up that Easter weekend in 1992, the undoubted highlight was the sight of a Messerschmitt and a Spitfire in the sky together. For the pilots, father and son flying team Ray and Mark Hanna, Warbirds over Wanaka offered a new experience in flying.
Well, flying here is quite different from the UK. Even in the country, in the UK, there are fairly major built-up areas relatively close to most airports. You can't really say that about Wanaka.
And for the pilots who flew these planes in deadly earnest, this was a moment to savour.
There's a lot of symbolism in this particular picture which is going on there. This is Spitfire, and right close by, within a few feet, is the Messerschmitt 109. Once time, deadly enemies, now close friends, flown by a father and son. I suppose that would be the ultimate symbolism of human cooperation, don't you think?
And so to 1994. Buoyed by the success of the 92 show, the organisers set about planning an even bigger and brighter event. The philosophy here is not simply to put aeroplanes in the sky, it is to put on a show, with all the bells and whistles and bombs.
And we see it, we see, you know, the flash, big flash and all the smoke. And then the Zero comes in and does the Avenger a disfavour. So any Japanese in the crowd will...
Keep those trade relations.
No. So as I say, the Avenger goes down, and I don't think we'll have that going in a ball of flame or anything, because it just went into the sea.
Right.
He sets a scene, you know, general sort of philosophy in it, and as always, very interesting visual effects. And
The idea, in Tim's words, is that the ship just rises above the horizon, you see.
Oh, yeah.
It just appears.
Oh, yeah.
And then it gets attacked, and all these little tubes you've got here, the special effects man's going to see that it gets blown up, and then the ship's just going to sink. Quite rapidly, I think.
The Japanese fellow is very pleased with himself now, but he's very sorry about his cruiser, because it's slowly sinking.
If we can hold on to the rope,
really
she might get down the hurry and come over the top.
Yeah. So at any rate, so it's slowly sinking, and in comes the Kitty Hawk, and dogfights with the Zero, and after a real tough little dogfight, the Zero gets mortally wounded, and it goes down, and it will explode with the smoke as well.
the show is reenacting various eras that aeroplanes have been in, various wartime eras, like Second World War, right back to the First World War actually. Second World War, Vietnam, Korea, that's all happening, and each little segment of the show has its special visual effect with it as well.
Tim, do you want to talk with Peter in regard to the Vietnamese villages we've got, about the activity there going to be in the huts?
Basically what I've got is I've got your 6-7 pairs of pyjamas at $15 a pair. Made in China.
7 pair?
Yeah.
We've got 14 Vietnamese. Some of them going to be naked. They can have top and tail. You can see over beyond the vehicles there, there's the back end view of a toilet block. That's a Vietnamese village, and it's going to be some little natives and coolie hats and outfits that Tim's had made by a Vietnamese lady apparently, and they're going to come scattering out of that when it's attacked. So that's the Vietnamese village. We're going to have a bit of bamboo and some greenery strapped to it for the day.
Right.
And there's going to be a big field gun, and the deal is that the aircraft have spotted this field gun, the Vietnamese village, and then the aircraft are going to attack it and take the Vietnamese prisoners, and oh no, it'll be good. And then they've got their routine.
At the planning meetings, imaginations run free. Anything is achievable, even if some acts may need a tad wee modification before show day.
Item 4, the caravan drop. Now, we want a reasonably presentable looking one, and what happens is there's a whole lot of firefighters going to be in it first. So when Bill lifts it, they're all in it. And then he lowers it, and they all get out but one. And when Bill lifts away, there's one fella waving, hey, 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 you know, what about me? And so he goes up, and then he gets into the corner, and he quickly puts a parachute on. And then when he gets high enough, he's just going to leap out. And then Bill's going to drop it shortly after that.
Tim likes explosions and artillery and bombs and things, and part of Tim's theme about having a show is that when the bomb goes off over there, he wants the sound effects over the PA. So we put on a show, we do all the sound effects from up here, and hopefully when you see the explosion, you'll also hear it.
Alright, so we have a circuit. It's going to go. This will kick it.
We've got modern day bombs, we've got the old bombs, we've got whistling bombs. You pick a bomb, we've probably got the bomb to suit your particular requirements.
While the special effects add icing, organisers know that the crowds come to see the planes. In '92 it was the ME-109, this year a new Spitfire joins the collection. The Griffin-engined Mark 14 is the latest addition to the Alpine Fighter collection, and it arrives just in time, on the day before the show. Time enough for a flight in its new home skies.
So basically the same frame, the same wing, with 500 more horsepower, quite a lot more weight in the front. You notice the tail is a far bigger rudder. He said it was very beautiful to fly. He said it's not as nice to fly as this one.
Well, it feels very good and very nostalgic, and I think we're all, also you have a certain amount of pride that you were in the contest with these airplanes. It was a partnership, as I said, between the airplane, this beautiful feminine airplane, and yourself, and we were all proud that we took part all those years ago, and it brings back some of the most happy and good memories.
And memories abound as the sound of arguably the most famous fighter plane ever built echo around this small country airfield. It's the day before show day and all is in place. There's time to even kick back and relax as the Mark 16 weaves its special magic overhead.
Well, I think he's gathering, as I say, a very unique, isn't it, family affair with all us old boys and the youngsters coming along. And in this beautiful setting, there is no other show like it in the world. And long may it continue.
Here in New Zealand, this is the top, this is the epitome. This is it.
It's just the sheer numbers of the traffic we're handling. We've got procedures set up that we'll be holding aircraft clear of the zone to the east and to the west, and we'll be peeling them off and bring them in as required.
Just aeroplanes, quick ones, slow ones, nice ones.
No, it's not lunch. They were having lunch on our airfield, so we got rid of them last night. You can't have rabbit holes on an airfield with fighter, a classic and vintage aircraft. The weather's been kind to us today. It's given a different perspective than we've had over the last few days. It'll hold off if anyone wants to know. And it's all set for the best warbirds show that we've had.
Well, there's lots of things to do. You're thinking about the crowd line, the wind drift, your height. You can't get blown across the crowd. Position of the sun, you don't want people to look at you in the sun. That's quite critical. You're thinking about 3 manoeuvres ahead. The actual manoeuvres themselves are quite mechanical. You've practiced those all the time, so there's not a problem there. You've still got to do them, of course. And you've got to fly your aircraft with your monitor things as well. So there's a lot going on, and it's quite a busy 4 minutes or so.
Now down at the far end of the runway, if you look to your left, it's caught us, and I think it's Alan Bond and the Hughes 500 and Bruce Drake and the ASW 24 glider. This is one of the most exciting displays of the show, and we're very pleased that we're able to put it on for you today.
Carrying a glider aloft by helicopter may seem pretty novel, but it's the actual release technique to watch for. Bringing the chopper to a hover causes the glider to dangle precariously beneath. Even our commentators seemed a bit concerned about the technique.
Bondi! Don't drop it, Bondi! That's Alan Bond of Mount Hutt Helicopters up there. He has stopped his helicopter with a glider. He has forgotten. He has been listening to me. He has now released him. Saw the opportunity in Japan.
And while Tim is pretty well up to date with most of the events, there are one or two which seem to catch him by surprise as well.
He sold... Toby! Toby! What are you doing? Now that was not a wing over. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, that was not a wing over. That's the first time that's ever been seen at an air show.
And you'll recall item 4, the caravan drop, where a fireman was to be lifted to a great height inside a caravan before calmly donning his parachute and jumping out. Well, somewhat unsurprisingly, volunteer firemen were just a wee bit short on the ground, or perhaps it was that on the ground was where they preferred to be. Either way, this is the caravan drop without firemen.
Now, something we don't often see at an air show is a helicopter taxiing. This is the Sikorsky S-55, flown by Brent Emeny of Helicopter Services. This big chunky helicopter is an ex-military aircraft. It was flown by the USA Navy, and it eventually finished up as doing air taxi work in New York and forestry spraying in the USA.
A late addition to the program, and fresh from success at Daytona, is the home-built Britain motorbike, the speed of which took everyone, including our camera crew, by surprise. On the Saturday, no one managed to keep it in the picture. They returned on Sunday to try again.
Blowing a bit of smoke. And the motorbike, look at that motorbike. Well ahead, well ahead. He's got it open right up. Now he's putting on his brakes. Bondi, you'll have to do a loop over the top to catch him up. But now that the Prince is getting it, they're turning at the same time. The Britain is still in the wind. The Britain is still leading. The Prince
is third, and the helicopter is second. Now we'll watch them turn at the end there, see if anyone cheats. You're the judges. They're turning now. Britain is turning. Come on, Britain. See if you can do it again. The helicopter is in the win at the moment. Right out of the front of us. The Britain. The Britain. The Britain by more than a nose. The Britain, the helicopter, and the Pits. First, second, and third.
And so it went, with civil and military aircraft setting the scene for the main event of the day. Still to come, the Warbirds.
Righto, from your left, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the first part of the Warbird display this afternoon, and that's a formation of 10 North American Harvard trainers. This is the first time a formation of this size has been seen in New Zealand since the Air Force operated these aircraft. Venerable old Harvard, the T6, the trainer, the pilot maker, all sorts of names for it. A wonderful aeroplane, and of course it was one of these aircraft, and it's actually in the formation there this afternoon, that was responsible for the formation of New Zealand Warbirds. Now I suggest you get your cameras ready, your videos, because against this beautiful blue sky this afternoon there's going to be some rather scintillating photographic opportunities. This is what's called a box loop. The aircraft pull up over the top, all smoke. And down the other side. And we have the Roaring 40s coming in now from your right, and this will be a box loop again. And at the top of the loop, number 4, at the back there, the yellow Harvard will detach, and he will commence his solo display routine. So Keith's killing now, and we have a stick roll. From the left we have a line astern pass from the formation with full smoke. Very spectacular against this blue sky.
I need some more room, one. Box go. 1 from 5, slightly more room, thanks.
And we'll call that, shall we, something like an ozzle twizzle? Not quite. Roll off.
Go.
From your left. Camera's ready. We're going to see what's called a Vic loop. Pull up. Now look at that one number 4 at the back underneath. He's on the top now. That is a very hard position to fly. He's looking straight up under the belly of the aircraft in front. Above him. He tucks in behind the leader there and just hangs in.
Stop. Line astern goes.
Pitching up. And we're going to have an 8-point roll. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a very difficult manoeuvre in a Harvard. Okay, from the right now, coming in, we've got what's known as a tail chase. And this is effectively a very good method for training fighter pilots. You follow the leader, you just do what the leader does. And tail chase amongst the clouds can be one of the most brilliant things you'll ever do. But you watch this, it's quite a lot of fun. So the leader pulls up, all the others pull up too. Up over the top. You can just imagine the situation, you know, if you were training in the Air Force to learn how to be a fighter pilot. This is the sort of manoeuvre that helps you get on and keep on the tail of the baddies. And the solo aircraft coming up, getting every inch of energy out of the airplane, kicking it over into an avalanche. Beautifully executed. In front of you, you've got the formation. Behind you, we've got the solo aircraft. And they're going to perform what's called a downward bomb burst with full smoke. The idea is that each aircraft, they pull up into a loop and they come out of the top of the loop, each going in a different direction, cover the 4 points of the compass with full smoke, fanning out as they do, and the number 4 will come through from behind, sorry, number 5, Keith, will come through from behind and fly right up the centre of the funnel of their smoke. It's a very pretty one and certainly one well worth taking pictures of and video. Now we watch them, they pitch up, get to the top, smoke on, down they come, each turning in a different direction. Very difficult manoeuvre. And up comes number 4, up comes Keith, right up the centre. Now how's that for a pretty sight? So we've got Simon Spencer Bow down below at his chipmunk, and upstairs we've got Ian Reynolds and the New Zealand WARBIRDS Association chipmunk, showing us a nice little stick roll. Very versatile aeroplane, one that everybody who flies it loves it. They tell me that people that own one never seem to want to know about other aeroplanes. And I guess it'd be fair to say that Ian Reynolds is one of those people. We call him Chippy, and that's a nickname for a chipmunk. So when you get to be named after your aeroplane, you've got to be a bit hooked, I guess.
One of the reasons for the success of WARBIRDS over Wanaka is surely the novel ways in which organisers have attempted to entertain the crowds, such as the range of aircraft available to them, that they are able to reenact various scenarios from the different eras of aerial conflict.
But this is what it was really like, flying in World War I I mean, they started off throwing bricks at each other. Then one day somebody drew out a revolver and shot at the other one. And then one day somebody said, I'll drop a bomb on you. And gradually aerial warfare developed from nothing. They literally used to throw stones at each other. It was quite serious, and bricks. Yes, I would say he's well and truly shot down and had it.
Another job for Rope Queen.
That'll be right. He doesn't need any more today, I don't think, Wayne, does he?
Tucked away inside the Vietnam village are a number of Viet Cong in pyjamas from the warehouse, and they're about to find themselves in very big trouble. Softened up by the Hughes 500 assault, the Viet Cong are unceremoniously rounded up and marched away to hand in their pyjamas. Next, it's the turn of the Bird Dog spotter plane to lay on the marker flares for the follow-up attack by the T-28C Trojan. Mission accomplished, and as the smoke clears over Vietnam, we turn the clock back to one of the great Pacific battles, the sinking of the Japanese battle cruiser, the Yamamoto.
Now, the actual battle, what happened, Ian?
First thing in the morning, Tim, there was over 160 Avengers attacked the Yamamoto, followed by an afternoon wave of another 250. By the end of the day, the ship was sinking.
Right, well, as we come down now, we see the Avenger, the big round engine, the right Cyclone, with the Pratt & Whitney Whispering Death, the Corsair, and the little Kitty Hawk on the port wing. There they go through in formation. The New Zealand contingent in the Pacific Island conflict. Now, Ray Archibald, now does that look like you saw it 50 years ago?
Just the way I saw it in the Solomons, yes. The Kitty Hawk, pretty old aeroplane, not as nice as the Mustang to fly, not by a long way. When I see old 2415 taxi past, swallow a few times because it takes me back a bit.
Now, the only machine gun we've got on this one is at the rear end, behind the torpedo bomb bay, and as it goes through, he's roaring and rumbling away through there now. He's actually seen the battleship, I think. He's certainly searching for it because the scouter planes in the reconnaissance said that this battle cruiser is in the vicinity. She's just come a bit more off the horizon, actually seeing it a bit bigger now. I still can't see the bow waves. The Avenger comes in now. It's going to make a sneaky attack, I think, this time. It's going to swing around. He hasn't got his torpedo bomb bay doors open yet. The Kitty Hawk following the F4U-1 Corsair.
Kitty Hawk was used in virtually every theatre of war in World War II. If you hear the name Tomahawk, if you hear the name Warhawk, Kitty Hawk, all the same type of aeroplane. Saw service in the Middle East, saw service in the European theatre and in the Pacific. Over 200 aircraft of the P-40 were operated in New Zealand by the RNZAF. Over 424 Corsairs saw service with the RNZAF during World War II.
What a magnificent sight. Yesterday we had them against a grey sky. Today, a beautiful, clear sky with puffy clouds in the mountains. So another Avenger comes in. That's a tail gunner. Now that's the ship. Oh, that was a close one. That was a close one. Now again, a bit short, a bit short. The Zero is coming up. The Avenger is coming in for its last run. This time it has to be a critical strike because the Zeros are on the tail. A passing shot. Here comes the Avenger again. This time I think it'll blow. Is hit. That's the first Avenger to go down. He's mortally wounded. But the Zero has actually made the attack. The Zero is now being found by the Kitty Hawk. Gonna get it. Converting height to advantage. Coming down, but far away yet. I think he's in range now. Watching. The Zero is going over. It has lost control. It's going over in a spiral dive. It's turning. It's spiral dive. And another one. Coming around. Low over the airfield. It's showing its plan view. What a beautiful aircraft. That aircraft was shot down as it was fighting Japan on the Aleutian Islands. It lay there for nearly 40 years, was brought back to Chicago in a very damaged condition. Alpine Fighter Collection got this Kitty Hawk and assembled it here on the airfield here in Wanaka. Tony Ayres was the engineer in charge of the rebuild, and Ray Mulqueen the overall organiser of the restoration.
There can be little doubt that of all the aircraft that flew and fought in the Second World War, it is the Spitfire that evokes the most emotion. It will always be a classic.
The D-Day stripes off the top of the wing. They were taken off, those markings were taken off a week after D-Day. We've got the 16 getting airborne with Ray Hanna in the 16. And that is the 1600 horsepower, and now 2000 horsepower, the Griffin. A very, very aggressive aircraft, and as Johnny Johnson said, every power movement you made, you had to use quite a lot of trim. The Mustangs now, the Cadillac of the skies, rolling down. The first one is flown by Graham Bethel and Miss Stork. The second one, flown by Trevor Bland, is in the colours of Ray Archibald's colours. Ray Archibald, who's in the crowd, and I'll get Ray to come up to the grandstand here. Ray Archibald from the displays. Now, Ray had his own special markings, which is the red-nosed, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The Dakota, also in D-Day stripes, is taking off. Okay, there goes the two Spitfires passing through on a low run. And Johnny, does that look like those D-Day markings?
Yeah, identical. It takes me back a few years, that's for sure.
And Johnny, I understand you were credited with the first German aircraft shot down. Did you see many in the skies that day?
No, the only two we saw we shot down. We got the one 88 first and then another one a few minutes later. The Germans apparently sent in a small bomber force. I don't think any of them got away because the Belgians and a few others got amongst them as well.
I'll just hold now while you look at the Spitfires. The Mark 14, the Mark 16 going into the loop.
We haven't talked too much about Ray and Mark Hanna today, but of course they're world famous.
They are, I would say. There's something about that father and son symmetry, I guess, but they can just read each other so well. They've performed at a number of air shows, obviously, around the world. We're very lucky to have them here. And, of course, they're film stars in their own right. Probably the latest movie we've seen was Memphis Bellway.
That aircraft there was fast enough to catch the V1 bombs as they were launched from Holland, Belgium, on England. It used to catch them up, get in behind them, and with its wing tip it, put it off course so it exploded in the countryside. In typical Mark Hanna fashion, he's waving his wings at the crowd to say that's the completion of a display. The two Cadillacs, led by Miss Talk, Graham Bevel, 2415, Trevor Bland. That sound has got an identical engine to the Spitfire. That's an identical engine to the Spitfire. The difference is the exhaust stubs and the propeller.
And it's interesting also when you look at the way the Mustang evolved. Originally it was designed for the Royal Air Force with an Allison engine in it, and its performance was somewhat less than desirable. So in the course of time, the British design engineers thought about putting a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine into this airframe designed for the Royal Air Force. The minute they did it, they never looked back.
Okay, on to our left, we have the D-Day fly past.
Yes, right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get the cameras ready.
In this year, the 50th anniversary of D-Day, it's remarkable to think that thousands of miles away from the scene of that great moment in history, in a small rural town in the South Island of New Zealand, it's possible to stage an airborne tribute to those involved. Perhaps it's as much a tribute to the vision of the WARBIRDS of New Zealand and to the organisers of this event that it's possible. WARBIRDS over Wanaka is rapidly gaining an international reputation as one of the world's finest air shows. Each year, new aircraft are being added, and the idea, which started in the mountains, which so spectacularly surround this airfield, has truly taken flight.
The Hurricane, Air New Zealand and Alpine, along with Hawker Restorations, see that that will be flying here within 3 years. Maybe an ME-109 with a Daimler-Benz, the MiG-15 and many other aircraft are all destined for WARBIRDS over Wanaka 96-98.
There'll be
just to wait.